Studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. However you choose to, whatever works best for you, wherever you're able to see the show, chime in if you want to. Already dropping those likes and reacts, including James Holmes, which we certainly appreciate. And also one of the better places you can leave your 2 cents throughout the program is on the social media, but we'll have those phone lines up a little bit later in the program as we do as well. And either as I said that or right after Flaco Jimenez also dropping that like and react. We do appreciate that. Helps us with all those algorithmic things that help make sure the show gets out there and serve the twin main missions that we have just about every day, which is to have live local talk radio here in the borderland, because damn it, we deserve it, but then also to talk about the things that affect us here, because no one else, as far as I'm aware, if someone else can show me an example or someone is having the discussion like we would, I would love to see that, because in general, my contention that I'm sticking with is that no one else is going to have that discussion. A whole lot of people telling us what we should think, feel, etc., but the situations on the ground, or sometimes in the air, and around the area, and affecting the people who live, work, play, travel, commute, etc., here, through, and about the region, it's different. It is different. And so if we're not going to talk about that, we're going to rely on other people to be telling us, but forget that. So let's do that. Let's talk about the things. We got a lot going on here today. There's also Robbie Flores demonstrating the commentary, of course. Appreciate that. Saying hello, everyone. So to you as well. Hope you all have had some safe travels. I think you all, some of the ones going out there for this holiday. So the Texas legislative session heats up and then kind of promptly ends. We'll talk about what the House has done and why, yes, the kerfuffles are still likely to continue. Personality clashes very much at evidence here, but also technically some legislative means on how to accomplish some of those big goals. Again, the two parts of this session, the special session that was immediately called upon the lack of action on a whole bunch of stuff in the first one, and no, we're not going to be done with it even on this one, but the House basically saying, all right, we did our part, you do yours, and adjourning already. So we'll get into those details and what that means and the fights that is setting up a little bit closer to home. El Paso Police Department having some difficulty with recruitment with a latest class, as is being kind of being further followed along with what our news partners at KFOX 14, only a couple dozen cadets, and what that numbers and kind of state of the police is here in El Paso, kind of where the situation this is, in more regional or really national law enforcement concerns as well. The U.S. Border Patrol chief announcing his retirement, basically in the aftermath of Title 42, basically saying, all right, that's about all I can handle, guys. I mean, probably a little bit more generous than that, the way he describes it, but still very much going on as well. Flaco Jimenez asking kind of the key question for really either of those situations, more the local part, saying who would want to be a cop nowadays. That is one of the central themes, spoiler alert, but I think that that's a pretty obvious one. So we'll get into that as well as investigation into that drowning at El Paso water park recently. But yeah, more on the state level stuff, as well as Governor Greg Abbott appointing a new acting interim is the correct phrase there, attorney general. And so how that's progressing, and these still notable radio silence, no pun intended, when it comes to Abbott, except like for that action on the whole situation. Also, Sean Gardner joining us over there. Good afternoon to listeners out there as well. Oh, there you go. Missing the and there. I understand typos happen all the time here, and I may have popped that up a little bit too soon. So we got some busyness of the many different issues going on. So we'll delve into all of that as much as we can. So keep the comments coming if you want to add your 2 cents. Again, phone lines a little bit later. So let's delve right into it. El Paso Police Department struggles to fill its ranks as latest academy only has 23 cadets. That the article title out this morning from our news partners at KFOX 14. That is also, if you may notice, it's a little bit more of an extensive article than you usually get from a single page type updates. It's because this is actually part of a longer term reporting sessions that our news partners are going to be doing every Wednesday morning. They're bringing back their weekly segment called Becoming the Badge, where they're going to be taking you along the journey of the 133rd El Paso Police Academy. And starting out this time around, looking to 6 years ago, doing this following the 122nd Academy back at that point in time. So let's have Ida Beza Gardner joining us over on the social media. Hello to you as well. And just noting some of the major changes that are going on. And as much as like 23, the recruitment of about 23 is probably not about where it needs to be. One of the previous ones, quoting specifically a officer that is involved with it, Officer Damian George, specifically as a previous member of a class, saying that he graduated with like 73 in his class, and now they're smaller than that. Again, only anticipated to be about 23 cadets. And yeah, some of the conversation they have and some of the back and forth is about the difficulties, the problems in recruiting that come from the both perceptions, the ideas, and some of the changing societal implications when it comes to policing. So these are all very much at play. We've talked about this in over recent years, frankly, that presentation that's within the last couple of years, for sure. I'm willing to say that with a level of certainty, that was about the very major national implications. Not sure too many of them. I mean, I know we've had some input from the audience in also previous years about implications towards the EPPD, concerns about it, issues with it, etc. But I just got to say, in my limited direct interactions with El Paso police on the receiving end, shall we say, has been standard in my instance, but of course I haven't had too much major, hugely serious going on, so I'm sure there's a lot of different perceptions out there for it. But here's one that really stood out to me from this report. They've had 2 academies under 20 enrollment in it right now, under 20 recruits. Is the senior instructor for the El Paso Police Academies, Officer Lopez, said. And here's one of the real interesting ones that he also had to say. Quote, "We have approximately 30% of our department that is eligible for retirement. Retirement, just retirement, not resignation." That means if we have estimated 1,100 officers right now, and tomorrow everyone decides to quit that would be eligible for retirement, that's my emphasis, not his, going on with his quote, "We could be close to 700 officers for the whole department, and that's scary." Now, efforts to raise the actual amount of officers within the El Paso Police Department has been pretty longitudinal, going on for years now. I remember specifically some budget sessions that I was sitting in probably better part of a decade ago, when there was a lot of some reinvestment into, say, the vehicles, about the time that we were seeing the change in the El Paso police vehicles, because if I'm remembering correctly from that time around, there was like a majority of the police fleet was more than a decade old. So yeah, that was the thing. And there were similar types of aging equipment when it came to the fire departments as well. So it was a problem. And there was talk at that point, so this was before like even the newer police stations out in Far East were they're still in the discussion phase as much now actually being put into effect. But even then, the staffing levels were of a concern. And I'm going to say this without having the exact numbers in front of me. They're pretty similar in terms of total staffing levels to where we are now. So that was 2016 at the latest when I was sitting in on some of those. And here we are in 2023 and looking at similar-ish levels and also recruiting difficulties. So that'll be one to keep an eye on, as there are a lot of implications that come from it. And so we're going to go and take that first break right now, get some of the comments here that are, of course, coming in and, of course, being mentioned. We'll delve more into those. But taking that first break of this hour right now, you are, of course, tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Phone calls a little bit later, comments coming through without, including some very much, not a good situation. But back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An injury accident downtown, I-10 eastbound at the Dallas Street exits, causing about a 10-minute delay. El Paso police said a crash gateway east at Giles, and all north and southbound lanes on Horizon remain closed at Darrington from that earlier serious collision. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $3 breakfast deal. Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
Shopping for a gift for dad or grad? Get Rosetta Stone for 40% off now through June 18th. Learning a language will expand their horizons and open up new opportunities in career, travel, and more. Choose from Spanish, Italian, Japanese, and over 20 more languages. Rosetta Stone memberships are for life, so your present gets them forever access to language learning tools they can use for years to come. Get it now at rosettastone.com. 40% off ends June 18th.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-334-2266. That's 800-334-2266. 800-334-2266.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in, and likes and reacts we certainly appreciate, including Ida Beza Gardner, Matt Olson, Ion Graham, Sean Gardner, Monica Cervantes, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, and James Holmes, including some of the actual comments coming in, including Anil Roy, I believe in reference to the idea of if everyone that could retire would all of a sudden going down by about 400 or so, give or take, down to about 700 by the estimate of some of the officers quoted in the reporting from our news partners at KFOX 14, saying that would suck, and frowny face. Yeah, that's a concise way to put it here. And because, I mean, okay, there was a situation that I guess I wouldn't necessarily call this the receiving end, but I had to place the call for a situation, and the response time was about 30 minutes for it started out as actually a non-emergency number call, but they made the decision to escalate it to a regular 911 call once I was on the line on the 911 end, frankly. So it took about 30 minutes, which is better than has been in previous years. I'll say that much. I don't really know what the total standards are right now. Again, going back to some of those previous times I've been sitting in on that, I knew from that point in time that the standards were about, could be for some of the lower tiers, it could be, half an hour, 2 hours of response. So I'll say that it was decent. It was better than my expectations were at that point in time. Don't have really have objective data to point it to, but other comments coming in, saying, including Dorley's Tor, saying, along with firefighters, teachers, and EMS, they don't get paid anywhere enough of what they're worth. I will say also that is further noted by news partners at KFOX 14 that El Paso Police says some are also saying that there are some stringent requirements, among other things, that the actual class, the process to become go through the cadet process is 43 weeks, noted as one of the longest in the country. John Browsden mentioning, see tons of prospects trying out at the Hawkins Park every several weeks, must flunk out due to drug tests and fitness failures. Not too sure about that, but I will say that the standards are, well, continuing to stay up, as is noted by, again, the reporting from our news partners over at KFOX 14. They do say that they have a lot of types of recruiting events using a lot of different methods, including going out, and they do hold events every week, according to Officer Tori Bradford, part of the recruiting division, saying, quote, we're trying to market and get different recruits through different ways, so whether that's going through classroom presentations for EPCC, New Mexico State University, UTEP, or even some high schools do classroom presentations, letting them know about the hiring process, and then they have a weekly event at Fort Bliss every Tuesday for those that want to keep serving their country, even if they get out of the military. So they're going to be doing more on that again with our news partners at KFOX 14 every Wednesday morning. So we'll see how the progression of this current class goes in. I will say that most of what they're talking about there comes from some more of the societal concerns. But I think there's probably a balance that needs to be found because, yeah, it's a question of, okay, if high standards are a reason that there's not enough of a pool considered for it, is it reasonable to lower those standards? I would have to say that I feel like most people would say no, but maybe something else needs to go, including some other commentary coming out about the idea of maybe paying them more for it, potentially. Want to say some of the lower rates, including, of course, the pay raises that just came in. Let me double check those because I think my conceptions might be wrong based on that, but put it fairly well above minimum wage, let's put it that way. Some other comments coming in, including Ida Beza Gardner saying happy graduation day for Kenyattio High School, certainly. And Anhel Rueda mentioning another big part of it, saying Border Patrol is in similar predicament. Lots of agents choose to retire as soon as they're eligible. Speaking of which, I guess maybe not 100% in the same vein that you're talking about there. Again, from Associated Press reporting, U.S. Border Patrol Chief retiring after seeing through the end of Title 42. Of course, U.S. Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz has now announced that he will be leaving the post as of June 30th. That was in a note to staff that the AP did receive. Ortiz saying reportedly in the note, quote, I leave at ease knowing we have a tremendous uniformed and professional workforce, strong relationships with our union partners, and outstanding leaders who will continue to tirelessly advocate for you each day. So he's been, of course, on the job since before COVID and Title 42, and all the restrictions that have come out there already, as noted further by the AP. So, August 2021. So in the midst of the pandemic, not before it. And of course, he's had some controversial moments, as is further noted about the whole operational control parts of it. Mayorkas does praise him upon the announcement, saying, quote, selecting him to lead the Border Patrol was among the most important decisions I have made. Chief Ortiz agreed to postpone his retirement several times since in the Border Patrol, the department and our country have been all the better for it. So we'll see what comes next. Can't say I totally blame the guy for saying, like, all right, we got through the biggest bit of response that we've had to have recently, but well, kind of the situation leads to next. I'm gonna just say this right now, probably going to be ever so slightly contentious for anything coming forward for the. I do believe that this is something that at very least there'll be hearings on, if not the full confirmation of. But yeah, there's I think where this is probably going to be just ever so slightly contentious, given the current environment in D.C. and in the national legislature. That this might take a minute. Some other comments coming in, of course, about policing and saying that beyond the fitness requirements, Falcon is saying, I believe working conditions the bigger issue, quite possibly. And that, again, has been part of some of the studies and other conversations that have been coming up even in recent years before City Council. John Browson and with an interesting note, you have to be bilingual in El Paso. That knocks out a lot of veterans. I could see that being a possibility because it's not even just a go through and rehash your high school Spanish thing we're talking about here. We're talking about specialized language and specific situations. At the very least, you can't hash your way through Miranda rights in whatever language you're giving it through there. So, yeah, I could see that being a bit of a barrier, but at the very least, one that hasn't been anything new around here. I could see that confounding that bit of efforts. James Holmes chiming in saying it should not just be about more money. Not everyone is called, and when you get desperate, that you start to get what you strive for. People want better officers. You need a better community. That's where they are pulled from. I don't have much issue with the community. We still remain one of the safest cities in the country, despite many recent and still kind of ongoing challenges. But I'll just say this, there's some of the commentary that has come before City Council and some of those previous discussions, and one that I find myself agreeing with, that no officer is better than a bad officer. And by that, I mean it's better to not have an officer than to have a bad one. Someone who is, not called to it, like you're saying, or one that is not actually wanting to do it. If it's just a job to someone, there are tons of just jobs out there. And the kind of thing where if you just want to do your work and go home, I'm not saying that there can't be anyone that is not the 100% gung-ho all the time into it, but still, given the amount of power, control, and ability to have an impact on you and all our Davies' life, there are specific things within the Constitution that deal with their ability. There's a whole lot of jobs that the Constitution does not regard at all, and this is specifically one of them. So if that gives the level of seriousness and gravity that should come along with it, I don't know how else to describe it to you, because we've literally got amendments that deal with what is able to be done. Willie Jenkins saying that more background needs to be done. I'm not sure that would help with the recruiting side of it, though I would agree, again, there is much asked of them, and therefore there is much that needs to be required of them in order to be able to do to it. I fully end up supporting police. They do a very difficult job, but also incredibly agreeing with the idea that that we should expect high standards out of them, because as we've seen with other situations, maybe not exactly an apples to apples comparison, so maybe not the fairest one, but as is also being noted, that the investigation into the drowning at the El Paso water parks, that are so closed. Well, some of them opened Saturday, but of course, the crimes against persons are still investigating, at the very least as a last check, the drowning at the Camp Cohen Water Park in, let's just call it Northeast in general, going into it. So that's, I don't know, and I'm hoping this will be maybe a bit of it. I will say that some of these are more community comments than anything about the standards, but there were a lot of hiring efforts. The issues even going on into, I believe, the weekend, or at least the week of this incident that happened at the water parks, there were still ongoing hiring efforts, which I'm not opposed to in general. But whenever you have a severe shortage and are dealing with things, part of the questions that have been raised have been about the standards and the training that go with it. So let's just say that without having the investigation in hand, and I hope this isn't the implication, but it does beg the question, is this a symptom of what happens where you just say, we just need bodies, we just need warm-blooded, pumping blood, be able to fog a mirror, people in positions in order to have some basic services going in. So without, let's just say, there's a balance that can almost always be struck. So therefore, if all you're worried about is this, we just got to get him in there, and you're losing some of the other part of the balance about standards, I just don't want any implications of that even being anywhere near the police, specifically, among many other things, even if there's There are other questions, other issues that probably need to be resolved, including societal ones, but I don't know how much can be totally done at the local level. Anyway, let's take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, getting closer to the phone lines here, but otherwise more comments coming in that we'll get into here as well. So also going to be talking about the Texas legislature and how, well, technically the House has already packed up shop for this session, even if that's not the end of the story, and the kerfuffle continues, even if it's going to be kind of shadow boxing this time around. If that's as clear as mud, I'll explain coming back as why there's, more issues and more personality clashes going on in Austin right now, even in the special session with its very narrow focus after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. An off-duty police officer was hit by an SUV while conducting traffic control in Horizon City. It happened at Horizon Boulevard and Darrington Road at about 10:30 this morning. According to the Horizon City Police Department, the male officer was working with Tri-State and Texas Department of Transportation, which were working an intersection when the crash happened. That person confirmed that the injured officer does not work for Horizon PD, but the injured officer remains unidentified. A new school safety bill already on Texas Governor Greg Abbott's desk could require an armed guard at Texas schools. House Bill 3 was introduced in response to the deadly shooting in Uvalde. According to the bill, the armed person could be a peace officer, a district employee, or a school resource officer. Two of El Paso's three largest school districts, El Paso and Socorro, already have their own police departments. Isleta ISD does not, but administrators there say they're working to put school resource officers at all of their schools. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
A crash downtown, I-10 eastbound at Dallas is blocking the right lane and the right shoulder is also closed. Traffic's backed up to Porfirio Diaz with about 7-minute delays. El Paso police on the scene of a crash, Gateway East at Giles. And in the lower valley, all north and southbound lanes on Horizon are still closed at Darrington. At the Darrington after a serious crash this morning, East Lake Drive can be your alternate. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Not quite as hot as we go through our Thursday and Friday. Still breezy for your Thursday. Partly cloudy skies. We should see a high around 89 degrees. As look ahead to our Friday, mostly sunny skies, breezy at times, high around 88. We do start to warm things back up, though, for the weekend. Mostly sunny Saturday, high 92. Partly cloudy Sunday with a high around 95. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print and Marketing Services help small business print big. Now get $15 off signs, banners, and posters when you spend $75 or more. Offer ends July 1st. Visit staples.com/printbig for details. This is your sign to try Staples, where your prints are perfect guaranteed.
When your back pain is your foot's fault. This is Dean's story.
It was affecting me when I walked, which is a kind of a common activity.
Dean's chronic back pain had become a pain in the you-know-what.
At first, I just sort of ignored it, but eventually everything catches up to you.
Physically and mentally.
Back pain affects your mood. It really does.
But that's not the only connection Dean made.
A friend of mine suggested I go to the Good Feet store. I was a little confused. Why would I need a foot store? My feet are fine.
But he thought, what the heck? He had nothing to lose.
They took impressions of my feet, and with the footprint, they were able to get me a personalized arch support that lifted pressure off my back.
So the source of your back pain was right under your toes.
It's something maybe I should have known, but I found out in the nicest possible way.
See how arch supports work for you with a free fitting. Find your Good Feet store at goodfeet.com.
Airway Boulevard at I-10.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours. This report is sponsored by Wendy's $3 breakfast deal.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And, of course, Talk El Paso, brought to you in part by Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, where I do believe they still got some of the Memorial Day sales events continuing on. At the very least, they got cash allowances at percentages, like 10% off MSRP for some models. So check them out. 950 Crockett Street, basically right across I-10 from Sunland Park Mall. Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. A lot of stuff going on here. A lot of people chiming in over on the social media, such as conversations about what's going on here. And we may still be having some of those video issues, so we'll do our best to adjust that during the next break, as long as you all can still hear us, which I think you can. In any case, some of the standards about police. Ana Rueda saying that when it comes to the bilingual issue part of it, that you get a card, one side English, the other Spanish. It should be a part of everyday uniform in case you go to court. Miranda rights card. Okay, that is a solution for one part of it, though. I wasn't saying that Miranda is the only issue, particularly with Spanish proficiency. There's other specialized language that you gotta end up using, and I am not going to pretend at all that I'm 100% familiar with it. Never attempted or particularly significantly considered going into a police academy. Maybe I'll see if I can do one of those day type things here if I can ever get a chance to get out of the office, see what it's like, go through part of it, even attempt the test, which I'm positive I'm not going to be that great at this moment in time. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, the proficiency and the skills that are required in our particular region, I mean, every locality is different than the challenges are, and I'm sure that would be a part of it, particularly since, I've heard more about it from the sheriff's deputy side of like Operation Stone Garden, and with that focus happening within the state, and even with some of the other national legislation, not as much in regard to it, but that's a possibility. But definitely agree with Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying here that lowering standards for recruiting police will have a deleterious impact on our communities. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, there are stringent ones, but again, anyone say, okay, let's make it easier and or less stringent? No, I don't see that as a good one here. And Austin Redfern reacting to that, Raul Ortiz. I don't believe he's ICE director, but Border Patrol specifically. So, that has been announced. He'll be retiring at the end of this coming month, or of course, on the last day of May here already. Some other comments coming in and dealing with some of the other issues. And yeah, of course, and Richard Janicek even saying a similar type of thing. Ever watch On Patrol Live? The sheriff and police officers in the East Coast have cards with English and Spanish on it, or an interpreter on staff. Yeah, that's an interesting possibility. I don't. It's kind of like the next generation of cops, basically. I don't watch much reality TV, I'll be honest with you, but being more responsive to those kind of things. I mean, yeah, there are communities all across the state here, so that's certainly a thing. But a little bit more specific now to the Texas legislature. Among other things, we have had the announcement of who was going to be handling things in the meantime by the appointment by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. John Scott, former Texas Secretary of State. Tappy Abbott is noted by the Texas Tribune here as of this afternoon, and also a former Deputy Attorney General himself. And this becomes because, of course, Ken Paxton has been suspended from office until that impeachment trial goes through, which I guess makes a level of sense. If someone has been impeached, not even just like accused of it or having articles filed, since he's been actually impeached, based to seriousness of any level, enough rising to the level of impeachment, high crimes, misdemeanors, etc., you wouldn't necessarily, just in kind of general circumstances, want that person to still be able to be on the job. But what I will say is this, beyond some of the things being said, like Governor Greg Abbott saying in his statement, Quote, John Scott has the background and experience needed to step in as a short-term interim attorney general during the time the attorney general has been suspended from duty. He served under me in the Texas Attorney General's office and knows how the office of the attorney general operates. That statement is interesting enough, but I'm going to call it still pretty much radio silence. The governor has never been particularly shy about tweeting, never been particularly shy about promoting himself, his own efforts, or what he wants to fight for or is in favor of. As it will be evidenced here more in a second. But besides this statement, which wasn't, most of his statements end up being posted to his Twitter, so it's publicly accessible. We also end up getting a lot of different statements that come in from his office. Besides basically the bio of it that was given kind of as we mentioned there really isn't, even in that statement itself, I'm not even sure that Ken Paxton's name is said now that I'm looking a little bit closer at it. So let's just say with no tweets that I've been able to find on this. So if someone has one, either from his main or his personal one, the ones at Gov Abbott or at Greg Abbott _Texas, I'm just not seeing anything even in regards to Ken Paxton. The office, certainly, but just nothing about Paxton himself. And I gotta say, as much as I don't know if they exactly put him in lockstep in the last election, I've been reviewing some of the videos that we even did coverage of, and there was certainly okay, he's supporting me. It seemed like the governor more was willing to embrace Paxton, particularly in that mildly contentious election that Paxton went through with a number of challengers, even on the Republican side of the ballot during the primary process. Was willing to, if not totally embrace him, more than tolerate him when it was very much focusing on Abbott's priorities, particularly when it came to border security, some of those roundtables that they were holding last year. So they've certainly addressed him in the past, but given that there's been one of the people actually asking Abbott about this and some of the tweets on this saying, what about Ken Paxton? It just hasn't been that much, if anything. I mean, there have been some tweets nationally, certainly, do not get me wrong about that, but within most politicals in Texas have just kind of not been talking about Paxton. Maybe a bit about, this is partisan, or that they don't like this process overall, the way it's progressed, but not much really being said about Paxton, and I don't think that bodes well for him, as we are going to see this. And again, most this is prominent from the House side of things. Even some of our local representation for the Senate have been saying we're not doing it. So I just don't think it bodes well for Paxton that people aren't even willing to step forward in order to defend him. But it's kind of cloudy crystal ball time. What I will say is that while we're waiting on when those impeachment actual trial within the Senate is going to move forward, which again, just as the note in case you missed it yesterday, that local state rep Joe Moody, Democrat from Texas, will be part of the House managers for the impeachment proceedings within the Senate. Of course, the House brought the charges, voted on them, and are now going to be presenting them essentially as the prosecution. It is not an apples to apples comparison. This is not a judicial proceeding. It's literally a legislative proceeding. So just don't get that twisted, as sometimes comes up. But what I will say is that other issues have been coming up, and other kerfuffles already coming up when it comes to, well, the House has adjourned already. The House of Representatives in Texas passed two bills to the two legislative priorities that Governor Greg Abbott put forth as this special session: border security and property tax relief. Generally, there's a lot more specifics that go into it. They passed two bills in regards to these and adjourned for the rest of the session. Well, however long it was supposed to go, I think roughly about 30 days, give or take. And so they actually can't come back until their session is over, and essentially the Senate finishes up or gets past some of these deadlines. And well, that is I kind of was breaking down statements from Governor Abbott yesterday, seeming like maybe reading between the lines style that it might seem like he is more supporting the plan that the House had put forth in the regular session about changing the formulas about how particularly school district taxation can be done, as opposed to the Senate's plan, which was just basically doubling the homestead exemption, that being the basic idea. And so with this action by the House, then passing those two bills and piecing out for the rest of the session, it's kind of funny to me, because as much as there was now we're going to keep doing this, literally they're done for at very least weeks to come. Governor Abbott has now put out a more specific statement that is basically saying, all right, let's go with the House plan. Among other things, the House can't change its plan anymore, but it is very much in contravention to what Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, of course, leader of the Senate, has been wanting to and seeing. So article title from the Texas Tribune out today: Abbott backs Phelan's property tax cut plan, spurring ire from Patrick, referring to, in order of appearance there, the governor, the speaker of the House, and the lieutenant governor, and therefore presiding over the Senate. Subheadline there: the House passed a bill without Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's preferred increase to homestead exemptions, then abruptly adjourned for the special session. That basically tells the Senate to take the House bill by Governor Greg Abbott back or leave it. There's high drama as part of it, and so basically if the ball is in your court and no, you can't spike it back on a return served to us, it just shows how much there are definitely personalities at play here, but then also a frustration between the chambers here. And I will say, John Brazelton having put forth the other idea about saying, since most legislators are lawyers, extra legislative sessions means extra drinking money. I mean, sure, there is a whole formula. Texas has a part-time legislature, and so when they are in session, they do get more. I'm not positive if they have adjourned for the session, that stipend, that stepped-up stipend, still continues or not. Given just the nature of Texas, I'm inclined to say probably not, but well, I'd have to look deeper into that one. With Abbott backing the House's move, with Patrick saying that basically he's trying to call the bluff, but you can't call a bluff if it's already been played, if the cards are already shown. So it's basically the options he has left is either go along with it or force another special session, and thereby essentially pricking the ire of Governor Abbott even further. I will say that some of his statements that, again, you can find over on specifically his Twitter, including the one that called for the special session and laid out this agenda. The special session number 1, again, he's numbering them already, will focus on cutting property taxes and cracking down on illegal human smuggling. The part right before that, or actually right after it, he says, after explaining that, saying we must cut property taxes. During the regular session, we added $17.6 billion to cut property taxes. My note here, I think that either plan, either from the House or the Senate, ends up being about $12 billion in change here. But what Governor Abbott goes on to say in his statement is, however, the legislature could not agree on how to allocate funds to accomplish this goal. Texans want and need a path towards eliminating property taxes. The best way to do that is a direct property tax reduction, dollars to cut school property taxes. Basically, what Patrick is saying in response to this is that the plan that the House has put forth, which there's an argument to be made that it is more longer term, it changes the formula as opposed to doing a one-time increase, that it makes it so that less is going towards homeowners. His argument is specifically that since the plan goes towards all property taxes, not just that for homeowners, but also, commercial. What are you also talking about? Like logging rights, the ones that I keep looking at when it comes to my homestead exemption forms, those kind of things. So natural resource development, etc. That those are also included in this. That basically under that plan, there will be $700 less a year in the coming fiscal years to the homeowners instead. That's the major line he's focusing on. Whether or not that works out, I mean, again, he's got 2 paths ahead of him, and I don't see Governor Greg Abbott playing around with this one and saying like, okay, fine, we didn't like it. We didn't play the ball you wanted to. I think Abbott's and even Patrick actually bristling at Abbott a little bit. I do believe the Texas Tribune noted this one as well, saying that, saying in a statement released Tuesday night, according to the Texas Tribune, Patrick said Abbott was misinformed about the roles of the governor and the legislature, arguing that Abbott cannot dictate the language in a bill. Patrick released a statement made earlier in the day on the Senate floor that the upper chamber's legislation was germane to the focus of this special session, saying further again, quote, Governor Abbott has finally shown his cards. he chooses to give homeowners 50% less of a tax cut, nearly $700 a year, to give corporations more. This is not what homeowners expected when they voted for him. So even a little bit of bristling within the executive branch itself. So yeah, we ain't done with this when it comes to the legislature, folks. We'll keep our eyes on it, as again, we got a whole lot more dates that are coming up there as well. So let's take that next break right now. And coming out of this break, we'll go ahead and open up those phone lines as we normally do at this point during the program. So if you want to get on that line, you want to add your 2 cents, and we'll try restarting the video here. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olgain with your KFOX 14 news update. An off-duty police officer was hit by an SUV while conducting traffic control in Horizon City. It happened at Horizon Boulevard and Darrington Road at about 10:30 this morning. According to the Horizon City Police Department, the male officer was working with Tri-State and Texas Department of Transportation, which were working an intersection when the crash happened. That person confirmed that the injured officer does not work for Horizon PD, but the injured officer remains unidentified. A new school safety bill already on Texas Governor Greg Abbott's desk could require an armed guard at Texas schools. House Bill 3 was introduced in response to the deadly shooting in Uvalde. According to the bill, the armed person could be a peace officer, a district employee, or a school resource officer. 2 of El Paso's 3 largest school districts, El Paso and Socorro, already have their own police departments. Isleta ISD does not, but administrators there say they're working to put school resource officers at all of their schools. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olgain.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash downtown, I-10 eastbound at Dallas is blocking the right lane and the right shoulder is also closed. Traffic's backed up to Porfirio Diaz with about 7-minute delays. El Paso police on the scene of a crash, Gateway east at Giles. And in the lower valley, all north and southbound lanes on Horizon are still closed at Darrington, at the Darrington intersection after a serious crash this morning. East Lake Drive can be your alternate. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by ComparionInsurance.com.
You have more than $10,000 in credit card debt. You have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. That's bad news for the credit card companies, but it's great news for you. We're Credit Associates, and we're offering you free information on how to completely resolve your credit card debt with a monthly payment you can afford. To see how much you could save, call now. 800-500-6135. Don't declare bankruptcy. Don't consolidate. Give us 10 minutes and we could save you thousands and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk to call now. 800-500-6135. For the secret the credit card companies don't want you to know, call Credit Associates for free now and see how much money you could save. Call 800-500-6135. 800-500-6135.
Wendy's $3 breakfast breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Should be back up in all the ways that are important, matter, and make it accessible to you all. A lot of comments coming in. We'll delve into a few more there. Getting closer to the end of this hour here, but we did have a quick comment that we wanted to get to here real quick. We do have Nate on the east side here with us right now. Nate, thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Andrew. And as always, God bless you and your program and everything. I did want to just to commend the El Paso community, Fort Bliss, the soldiers, retirees, and what have you, who came out and helped to place the flags on the Saturday at the Fort Bliss National Cemetery. It was done quite successfully, without incident, and we're just very grateful for that. Of course, I attended the Memorial Day ceremony as well. That was on Monday, and I tell you what, and in my opinion, it was outstanding as well. As always, it really hit the point. And just one other thing I wanted to make mention of, the cemetery staff is asking for the community to come out, especially on Saturday, to help retrieve the flags after 8 a.m. So if anyone out there is physically able, can spend a little time, maybe for an hour or two Saturday morning, please go out and help recover the flags. We've got a very professional staff out there, in my opinion, and it'll be a good service for the community.
Absolutely. Had the chance to speak with Director Gonzalez of Fort Bliss National Cemetery ahead of the Memorial Day weekend to talk to them about that. And yeah, they are seeking to do that. I mean, what has gone out must be picked up, because at the very least, you don't want the flags remaining out there and becoming at all decrepit or damaged. So yeah, that effort going on Saturday. What time is that again?
It starts at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. Saturday morning.
8 a.m. Fort Bliss National Cemetery, basically right under the Spur 601 extension. So head out that way and please take part of it if you can.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call, and thank you for your efforts toward this and mentioning it here today.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Sure thing. And with that, let's go ahead and take that next break. Right now, coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls, more comments, more of everything we try to do, including more about some of the city corruption potential investigations, or potentially an expansion of them being called for here. We'll talk about that. But again, if you want to get on the line, lines open and available now. I need to make that more explicit in the future. That number again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash downtown, I-10 eastbound at Dallas is blocking the right lane, and the right shoulder is also closed. Traffic's backed up to Porfirio Diaz with about 7-minute delays. El Paso police on the scene of a crash, Gateway East at Giles. And in the lower valley, all north and southbound lanes on Horizon are still closed at the Darrington intersection after a serious crash this morning. East Lake Drive can be your alternate. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Ricardo, quote, "This is one of the greatest inventions ever. I know this may sound like I'm exaggerating, but this sucker is amazing. The first time I did it, I couldn't believe what came out of my sinuses. I could breathe with ease. My wife just bought one too. Thank you for this product," unquote. He's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. There's growing opposition to the debt limit deal on both sides of the aisle. A group of hardline Republicans in the House harshly criticized the deal, claiming the measure fails to deliver deep spending cuts conservatives have pushed for. Meanwhile, several members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus have also spoken out against the legislation, arguing it prioritizes defense spending while cutting aid for the most vulnerable. The White House is calling a Chinese fighter jet maneuver over the South China Sea unsafe and unprofessional. The Pentagon released a video showing a Chinese jet fly directly past the nose of an American plane.
They forced that RC-135 to go through the jet wash of the Chinese fighter, which just tells you how close it was, several hundred feet.
National Security Council spokesman John Kirby called the move dangerous. Former President Trump's White House aides are being subpoenaed over the firing of a top election security official. Trump fired his cybersecurity chief Christopher Krebs in November 2020 after the presidential election. It came days after Krebs went against Trump's false election fraud claims in a statement describing the election as one of the most secure in American history. The number of job openings in the U.S. is on the rise. Lisa Taylor has more.
New government data released Wednesday showed there were 10.1 million openings in April. That marks the first increase after 3 straight months of declines. The new number, coupled with increased consumer spending, suggests higher interest rates haven't slowed the economy as much as the Federal Reserve would have hoped. Retail and healthcare led the number of increases in job vacancies. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Actor Danny Masterson is guilty of raping 2 women. On Wednesday, a Los Angeles jury also said it was deadlocked on the charge related to a third accuser. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. A scare in the sky for a Navy pilot. Natalie Rodriguez has the details.
A Navy pilot lucky to be alive after being forced to eject from his F-5 jet after some technical issues approximately 6 miles from Naval Air Station Key West Boca Chica Field. Within minutes, a search and rescue operation launched. That pilot was found. The pilot from Fighter Squadron Composite VFC-111 Sundowner, a reserve adversary squadron, is being evaluated and treated at a Miami area hospital.
West Virginia Governor Jim Justice is getting hit with a civil complaint from the Justice Department. The Republican leader allegedly owes unpaid fines for mining violations related to the 13 coal companies he owns. The complaint says Justice, a 2024 Senate candidate, committed over 130 violations of federal mining law in a 4-year span. Tuition assistance may be the most valuable incentive companies are using to attract and keep workers. Aaron Real reports.
Big corporate names like Walmart, McDonald's, T-Mobile, Amazon, and Starbucks have all offered programs to help cover the cost of going back to school. Coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, these types of benefits play a big part in the competition for workers, and more companies are now offering opportunities to develop new skills. In 2021, the country's largest employer, Walmart, said it would cover 100% of the cost of college for all full and part-time associates. Since then, over 100,000 employees have participated in the program. They find those employees are 2 times more likely to be promoted and 4 times less likely to leave the company.
Disneyland's iconic Splash Mountain is no more. The popular attraction at the Anaheim, California theme park is closing to be transformed into Tiana's Bayou Adventure based on 2009's Princess and the Frog. Splash Mountain opened in 1989 and was based on the 1946 Disney film Song of the South. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
iHeart gives you access to the hottest music, events, and deals. But on June 1st, we're giving you access like never before. It's iHeartRadio Access Day, our 24-hour way of saying thank you for listening. Go to iHeartRadioAccessDay.com today.
You could be joining Ryan Seacrest for a VIP experience at our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival in Las Vegas.
Head to iHeartRadioAccessDay.com to register to receive reminders for when experiences like this and more go live tomorrow.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $3 breakfast deal. Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Hip, knee, or back pain? See if Arch Supports can help you at the Good Feet store.
Hi, I'm Pastor Jeff Shreve, and I invite you to follow me as we pursue wisdom and peace through Pray.com's new podcast, Weekly Wisdom. Every week, we will embark on a journey through the Bible to discover encouraging truths and wisdom to last a lifetime. The Bible says wisdom is like a teacher standing at the gate, calling for us to hear her words before it's too late. Will you answer that call? Listen to Weekly Wisdom with Pastor Jeff Shreve on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot going on, a lot of stuff we're discussing here. And of course, I got that phone line open right now, the number on your screen for those over on the social media, if you want to chime in that way, or just for those of you out in Radio Land or otherwise, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. In partial answer to one of the questions that came up, Texas state legislators make about $600 a month, or about $7,200 per year, plus a per diem of $221 for every day the legislature is in session, including special sessions. Still haven't found the exact answer of that, if that includes while they're adjourned, among other things. So, yeah, give me a minute more to look into that one there. Hopefully I can find an answer. Flogging me minutes on the whole point there, saying that the only way to actually cut taxes is to cut down on wasteful government spending. Good luck. Fair point. I will say that. But I will say that that trajectory that had been proposed previously, and it was very interesting to see the governor. I don't know if exactly he has said that entirely about wanting to chart a path towards eliminating property taxes, but let's just say that as much as the property tax reform is being talked about, that doesn't actually affect the state's revenues at all. Those are only the local ones. So as the state is certainly, well, it was looking to change some of the formulas, or at the very least the funding amounts for individual school districts, yeah, that got caught up in the whole also school vouchers, choice, savings, what have you, however you want to describe it there. And that'll probably be one of the upcoming special sessions that is likely to be called after this one. But I would say that since basically all the state's revenue is based off excise taxes, put broadly, I don't have the exact schedule of them in front of it here, but sales tax, fuel surcharges, maybe that electricity, or potentially the vehicle registration changes, those kind of things. They're basically going to not even just a technical change, but a philosophical change to how it's approached. Whether or not that's feasible, viable, can be done with even in a session, given the issues we're having with this one, remains to be seen. But it's an interesting conversation. But John Browsland also bring up another big situation going on here. As much as we have had conversations, including some discussion about the actual ethics complaints that were filed against current city rep Cassandra Hernandez by, well, also listener to the show, as long as I'm looking at the account right there, George Zavala, who held that news conference on Friday in front of City Hall announcing that he was filing the ethics complaint. More has been dug into, specifically referencing the article title here from KVIA.com. Mayor concerned El Paso elected officials, city staff spent $500,000 on taxpayer-funded purchasing cards in 2022. Former Rep Rodriguez spent $7,500 plus in one day. So John specifically referencing those, saying, look at the P card, Visa investigation on spending by city employees. They collectively spent over $500K last year. The two city councilwomen spent outrageous amounts at a local Walmart and Target stores, went right up to the $1,000 limit numerous times in the same day. Hernandez spent $3,400 right before Thanksgiving. So yeah, I'm going to be in favor of that being looked into. KVIA, I will say, has a lot of the details, including the entire usage log based on, I believe, their open Freedom of Information Act request. So they have more questions, and they also have the policy that's available there. So I don't think that situation is over yet. Yeah, Julie Jenkins saying, what in the heck? I kind of had a suspicion that, okay, fuel cards, if there's been misuse or abuse there is one thing, but I guess I feel like it's kind of a deer situation. You know, if you ever come across a deer on the road, not as much of an issue around here, though it has happened. I've definitely seen some roadkill even within like near arroyos and neighborhoods. You know that if there's one, there's probably more. I feel like when it comes to issues like this, if there's one, there's probably more. So don't floor it unless you want a little bit of free range ground, not beef on your grill, or in this case, having to do investigations on current and potentially former city council members. Some implications being brought up by some transparency advocates in the area, let's just put it that way, about implications for what was the one that was put forth to me, specifically Article 3, Section 52 of the Texas Constitution. So yeah, let's see how this plays out. But let's get to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Eric Von Holstein Rathel, among other things, saying they should go to jail, but I bet they'll get a slap on the wrist, probation, and have to do a PSA. We'll see. As much as there is that article, I'm not sure what penalties could be there. I mean, at that level, though, potentially, state level law enforcement could get involved there. But, and Trito Sack unhappy about that as well, saying, sounds like corruption you find among politicians in Latin American countries. Sad when we have our leaders in our own country seeing to what that level when constituents pay such high taxes. Again, broadly, a not good situation, or as I've been told to not to powder puff things, a bad situation and fully worth of investigating, even if the ethics complaints that have been filed have been against the sitting city reps, but didn't technically include this either. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, getting those phone lines now. We do have Eric on the east side here with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hello there. In regards to Jerry's anti-Semitism from the other day, it's important to look at the big picture and how casual anti-Semitism has just infiltrated mainstream conservatism. Like, I've been paying attention to right-wing anti-Semitic culture for close to 2 decades. Like the conspiracy theorist culture on the internet, like that Alex Jones was a part of, and many other.
Your obsession with that, sure.
Wild people. And you'll find a lot of delusional and false narratives about Jews controlling the media and news and the world. It really is pretty sinister. And these people truly are poorly informed fools who get their information from like random blogs and believe whatever confirmation biases these narratives, like Jews don't control the news and media. Yet, these are popular narratives you'll see in conservative culture nowadays. And these anti-government, far right-wing conspiracy theorists, they that are usually white supremacists and anti-Semites, they weren't big voters or a demographic pursued by presidential candidates or politicians in general until like Trump came along and decided to tap into this untapped into voting demographic. And there was a pretty big right-wing terrorist attack back in 2018, the Tree of Life one. It was the biggest anti-Semitic domestic terrorist attack in American history, and it was motivated by the Great Replacement theory of David Lane and the belief that Jewish people were bringing Hispanic immigrants to America to replace the white race. And in this right-wing echo chamber, right-wing conspiracy theorists immerse themselves in, they often use the term globalists to refer to Jews. Like, this is important to be aware of. So when you hear people like Glenn Beck use these anti-Semitic dog whistles, you can be aware of it and see who's pandering to who and how they're infiltrating the mainstream conservative worldview. And that right-wing terrorist who attacked the Tree of Life, he also believed Jews control the news and the media like a fool. And, these absurd anti-Semitic views used to be fringe ideas before Trump. And he invited them into the Republican Party's big tent of deplorables. And
really, we're going to go with the whole deplorables line here. How well did that work out back in 2016? I have to ask you. Okay, let's make a couple things perfectly clear here. A, that's anti-Semitism, being any group of people based on either, again, immutable characteristics such as, race, gender, sexuality, etc., or their sincerely held religious beliefs is unacceptable. Full stop, no caveat to this statement. Anyone saying, well, yeah, but let's just say anything along the lines of those people, how they are, anything along those lines is unacceptable and should not be entertained, because that's what leads to other things. And as much as I disagree with you in your characterization, people in high elected office or having a lot of clout, ability to reach people, a lot of followers do have to be responsible. I don't know what kind of legal consequences can or even should exist in that case, but I mean, morally speaking, yeah, anyone playing with fire and expecting not to get burned is doing a disservice to everyone. So anyone saying that, well, we just want them to vote, we don't expect them to do anything, that's the kind of ends justifying the means logic that I'm never, frankly, going to end up supporting here. But trying to, again, use this show to pillory other shows, not exactly what we do even on a Friday, of which we're firmly in the territory for it now, but it bears repeating. Anti-Semitism specifically is something I don't support. This show will never support. Anyone who sincerely thinks that, well, we would just be better without any insert group of people here is going to be someone that I'm going to find myself disagreeing with more often than not on that set of subjects and issues here. So when it comes to the local ones, we've certainly brought up a lot of the ones that are very impactful in this area today. Anything that you want to specifically say on those?
Well, I wasn't attacking other shows. Like, I see the Great Replacement false narrative and Jews control the media expressed in the comments of your show all the time. And just yesterday, you were defending Jerry's anti-Semitism, quoting Norman Niemöller. The entire quote from him was, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist.
Right.
Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. That's a very powerful phrase,
Absolutely.
And for you to evoke it, your version was, first they came after the anti-Semitic extremist Catholic organizations, and I did not speak out.
We making up quotes again? Because if we're going to go down that road, we're going to have a lot of fun with this. Let me just put it that way. No, I read that first quote as you, so if you're going to straw man me. Anyway, point is that I'm not saying that I fully agree with Jerry, but that's what I took his comments in the vein of, that people trying to go against any specific segment. Of course, I think there's, identity parts of it here going against, Catholics, even if, again, the way it's being put forth at the national level that we're looking at the extremists, though, I do think there's been a bit of overreach when it comes to this. That leads to, and frankly, makes this more, if not possible, prevalent in the discussion about that. We start bringing up things that would seem to the layperson to be unrelated, like Latin Mass being brought up here. And in those same kind of things, I mean, there's a lot of carefulness given the issues that have been going on at the federal level and the lack of faith in institutions, that just plowing ahead with anything without regards to how it'll be received is an issue here. So, I mean, you can have your own interpretations. I'm not the thought police here by any means, but if you're going to go around labeling accusations at people and not accepting any interpretations that your own, that's when we're going to get to some of the nicknames that we're going to be pushing back and forth. So again, on the local issues, anything you want to bring up, some of your favorite people to accuse me of being buddy-buddy with, or of course some of the things we've been discussing today.
Yeah. I mean, to defend these anti-Semitic traditionalist extremist Catholics by painting them as everyday Catholics or just normal Christians being persecuted to push a conservative partisan agenda is defending anti-Semitic extremism and sweeping it under the rug and minimizing it. Then to compare, the government monitoring these anti-Semitic Christian extremist organizations to the persecution of Jews during the Holocaust is insanely anti-Semitic.
Sounds like a lot of things I didn't say, but I'm going to give you one more chance here on the local things. Many issues we've talked about today, some that you've been vocal about in the past. Anything you'd like to say, or are we still trying to turn this dead horse into something that could be served up in a burger in Sweden?
No, I mean, your show does platform anti-Semites, and you defend them, as I just pointed out.
Okay, so I'll take that as a no there, as much as we never actually get answers out of you here. So, again, let me be clear. Anti-Semitism, anything saying that any group of people, based on, again, to use language from the Supreme Court, immutable characteristics or sincerely held religious beliefs, is unacceptable. And we do have people that, unfortunately, have those beliefs out there. Accusing us of platform by dealing with calls here. Again, if you're trying to say that Jerry was throwing up anything approaching, the how high the grass is Germany type of terminology, I don't actually want to say the phrase, but seriously, if you don't like what he's saying, you can reach out to him, say, hey, this is an issue with it here, but trying to say that, well, this is inherently bad and therefore anything they have to say is bad, getting into the you suck type comments. Yeah, no, we're not going to do that here, but no, anti-Semitism is not okay in any way, shape, or form. I often do bristle a little bit at some of the George Soros comments because they do end up starting to approach that. But I will say, as long as we're at the level of like, oh, well, the people on the left were upset about the Koch brothers doing, big funding for grassroots, quote unquote, efforts, particularly back before 2016, but then in 2016. In that vein, like, sure, there's a legitimate line of inquiry that can be done before you can't end up getting into the whole, well, he's bad because of, again, immutable characteristics and sincerely held beliefs, etc. That's the point where, nah. So, thanks for the point in the call for what it's worth. As much as we've indulged this one, we're going to go ahead and take that next break now, because if you actually want to talk about things, it involves a back and forth and actually like answering things. So, taking that break, if you want to get on the line, that number to call is, of course, 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We got an accident in North Mesa at University that's causing about a 5-minute delay from downtown. An accident Dyer north of Fred Wilson. All lanes are back open from an earlier crash gateway south at Trans Mountain. And an accident reported westbound Montana at Trowbridge. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $3 breakfast deal. Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
No, not now. That sounds like it's going to cost you.
I know what to do. I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, I could have the money in my account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
Hi, I'm Scotty Clark from Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. The heat is back, so get ready, El Paso. It's going to be a long, hot summer. At Scott Heating and Cooling, we're ready to help you maintain and service your home and business HVAC system. We service all major brands of heating and cooling equipment, as well as commercial kitchen equipment and walk-in freezers. With appointments available 7 days a week, make an appointment online or call Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing today at 915-595-4529.
A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt may get a ticket. A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt during a crash may not make it home. Don't risk it. Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Memorial Day sale, May 26th through June 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $31.14. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt may get a ticket. A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt during a crash may not make it home. Don't risk it. Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod. Noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either to Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Phone lines open and available, even if we've had some, I'm still wondering if we've got some phantoms in the system, but should be able to call in just in case it's a logistical or instructional issue. Just stay on the line until we can address you, or come you up live on the line there. So just give you that number in mind. Is again of open and available now, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. One note I was reminded about during the break is that in terms of other things going on in the area, we actually have the changeover for city manager coming tomorrow. Yeah, we got the retired Colonel Weston going to be taking over as the official and in place interim, I think is the correct phrase, city manager tomorrow, as Tommy Gonzalez, his contract is officially up at that point. So that's coming and that's happening. So yeah, we got a lot more, and we'll see what happens there. Of course, one of the last big actions was by the city manager was that new police contract, which I don't know if I'm willing to say that it's too soon to tell if it had any impact on like the recruiting classes or not, but only time will tell. I would stand by that. So let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, that number 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, clearly they need to pay police, people who want to go into that profession a whole lot more, so that you can get the numbers that you need and that you can keep the numbers that you got. It's expensive. Running a city, running a state, running a country is expensive. Taking care of people's needs is expensive. Mm-hmm. It takes taxes to do that. And we got a tax system that really doesn't work that well. The wealthy few at the top pay smaller percentages of their incomes than do the average and ordinary Americans. And that's just clearly wrong. And that's because, again, they can rig the system with their money. So it's a very sad situation. Now cops, the thing about cops, is now I've had my house broken into, my car stolen. I've been assaulted in my home. I had my apartment broken into. I've been shot at. I've been brutalized at a bar. Not once was there a cop there. Okay? And they did show up, but, it was after the bad thing had already happened.
Sure.
Now, that's par for the course, okay? So what they do is they try to catch the bad guys, okay? And they catch them sometimes, and sometimes they don't. That's just the way it works out. So that's one reason, even though I think the Second Amendment has been bastardized, because I'm not a member of a well-regulated militia, but I can understand why people would want to have guns, because if you really want ultimate protection, you got to have your own peace. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to win in a gunfight. The other bad guy, he might have an AR-15. I don't have an AR-15, So it just depends on how bad they want to get you and how crazy they are. But this country is drowning in guns and nuts with guns, and other people who will do anything to keep those nuts from getting the guns. It's the craziest thing, and again, gets back down to politics. And so, politics is very important, and debating the issues is very important. And now we've got a guy running against Trump, Chris Christie, who's a great debater. He was a former prosecutor, former governor of New Jersey. He's a street fighter. He's going to beat the turds out of Trump T-Rump. Let me tell you, the Republican thing is going to be the turd Trump show of all time. I get your popcorn ready. It's really going to be interesting because they're going to tear into each other. You're going to see two big apes throwing, manure at each other. It's going to be great, and it's going to destroy the Republican Party, which deserves it because they wedded themselves to that madman, who now we have recordings of him talking about classified documents that he knew were classified, that he shouldn't have had. And who knows, he may have been selling this to people and showing it. That's how much of a danger he has been to this country.
I understand your perspective on the big guy, as you're putting it here, that aside the assumptions or speculation there, I will say that any parts of this upcoming presidential election, and had seen the note that Chris Christie, again, throwing his hat into the ring here, though, at a certain point, I do wonder about the seriousness of it, or if he's just like angling for a seat. If this is a serious run and he's actually going for it, again, I certainly encourage debates. I like seeing them, and I'll be excited to see if we get to that stage. You're already shaping up to be, honestly, a kind of crowded field, but I still see one, just to dwell on the national here for just a second. I know the one big issue I see is that Donald Trump, if not the de facto leader of the Republican Party, I would think is closer at this point to basically a patron saint that is also still alive, and therefore has you can't just claim their cause for your own there, like a lot of people do with like Reagan these days, say, it's the spirit of Reagan, or did before this point here. I've had someone say that they can see 20 years, if not sooner from now, saying I'm a Trump era Republican, or phrases like that. And I mean, it's shaped our politics and is going to continue doing it for the rest of living memory, if not beyond. I am positively sure about that. So really the ability of any candidates, and I wouldn't necessarily call Christie a front runner at this point here. I still think that DeSantis is probably the closest to, and a front runner in this case, I'm referring to the closest to the former president. That's about the best you're going to get, because until he decides to, I don't see much of an opening, unless, and this is really the point I'm getting at, that going after the former president, like just straight on taking on, and not just saying, well, I think we could do this a better way, but being like, no, you're wrong, in those kind of terms, or that kind of mentality. That's frankly, I think, what it's going to take to see anyone try to actually overcome it while the former president is still in the race, among other things. So we'll see. I don't hold out. If you like Christie, that's fine. I don't hold out too much hope for him personally. Just based on the previous times around. Didn't make much of an impact in previous ones, but it's possible I'm going to be wrong on this. Only time will tell. Cloudy crystal ball is absolutely in effect here. So we'll see, and we'll definitely be watching this race, as it's pretty much always been going on since 2020 as it is. I mean, Trump never technically stopped campaigning, even if the exact announcement for 2024 wasn't made until, late last year, early this year, those continuing on campaignings, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see. of course, keep updated on it, particularly if you see any campaigning coming through the area. But on the local part of it, actually did find some of those current salary schedules. Join EPPD.com, not endorsement or anything, just where I'm getting this information. The recruit in academy makes a minimum of $18.35 an hour, so about $1,400 and change bi-weekly is the amount, and then starting officer salary is a minimum $47,000, basically right just shy of $48,000, and a maximum of $55,000 and change annually. And then they've got all the way up to the assistant chief salaries listed. Basically, once you get to commander, you're pretty well into this six-figure range. So the top three levels, commander, deputy chief, and assistant chief, either right at or firmly in the six-figure range. But even the officers, 1 to 4 years, that $47,000, $48,000. Advanced officers / detectives, years 5 through 8, $58,000 starting minimum. So yeah, there's definitely money that's been put into this, and as well as, life insurance, pension considerations, paid leave. I mean, they have all of the things. People can see them for themselves here. Again, not saying this as a therefore do it, but like these are the numbers we're dealing with when it comes to pay. I will say again, there's a lot expected of them, a lot demanded of them, a lot of power they are given, and these things all have to balance out when it comes to police and making sure we have what we expect in this community to have when it comes to our public servants. So I appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth on the local aspects of it, even if, with more announcements and us gearing up to the campaign, I'm sure we'll be talking more about that, particularly on Fridays, but appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there. With that, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll try to take a few more calls. We've had some people popping up and then promptly hanging up here, so just stay on the line is all I'm saying. We'll greet you as soon as we can. So phone lines open and available right now. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olgain with your KFOX 14 news update. An off-duty police officer was hit by an SUV while conducting traffic control in Horizon City. It happened at Horizon Boulevard and Darrington Road at about 10:30 this morning. According to the Horizon City Police Department, the male officer was working with Tri-State and Texas Department of Transportation, which were working an intersection when the crash happened. That person confirmed that the injured officer does not work for Horizon PD, but the injured officer remains unidentified. A new school safety bill already on Texas Governor Greg Abbott's desk could require an armed guard at Texas schools. House Bill 3 was introduced in response to the deadly shooting in Uvalde. According to the bill, the armed person could be a peace officer, a district employee, or a school resource officer. 2 of El Paso's 3 largest school districts, El Paso and Socorro, already have their own police departments. Isleta ISD does not, but administrators there say they're working to put school resource officers at all of their schools. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olgain.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Got a collision on Dyer Street north of Fred Wilson. An accident reported northbound Airway at Viscount. Police still working an accident in North Mesa at University. And all north and southbound lanes in the lower valley on Horizon are closed still at Darrington. That intersection also closed due to a serious crash from earlier this morning. Try Eastlake as your alternate. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Not quite as hot as we go through our Thursday and Friday. Still breezy for your Thursday. Partly cloudy skies. We should see a high around 89 degrees. As look ahead to our Friday, mostly sunny skies, breezy at times, high around 88. We do start to warm things back up though for the weekend. Mostly sunny Saturday, high 92. Partly cloudy Sunday with a high around 95. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $3 breakfast deal. Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Haley, quote, Navage is the best thing I bought. I love it. My nose feels so clear now and I can breathe. I've been struggling with a stuffy nose for weeks. I bought Navage and it's amazing. Or this one. I use Navage every night, could not imagine life without it. I have 5 cats, and before I found Navage, I was a clogged mess. Now I breathe so much better, unquote. Those are 2 of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
With an open channel,
I guess just try to keep channels open.
we welcome open-minded individuals
I try to keep an open mind to all issues.
with open arms
I think we need to always have our eyes open.
for open conversation. And when you open the iHeartRadio app, you open a whole new world wherever you are.
What should America do about immigration crisis?
I guess open the borders, but at the same time, check everyone that's coming in.
Open the gates.
A free download in the App Store or at ktsmradio.com. Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Never heard of us? We know. But to help it stick that our local agents are insurance experts, we're going to say local agent 3 times in the next 5 seconds. Local agent, local agent, local agent.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com.
This report is sponsored by ComparionInsurance.com.
Getting a news feed on your phone while driving
Makes driving more difficult.
This is dangerous.
Getting a news feed without a computer or mobile device?
It would be impossible.
Unless, of course, you get your live news feeds at the top and bottom of the hour.
It's easy.
Traffic and weather all day.
It's as simple as that.
Trending stories tend to change.
Every minute of every day.
Twice an hour, we'll feed your curiosity.
Stay informed. Shouldn't we listen? They're hungry.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
There are things that go together that make mornings better. Coffee and cream, bacon and eggs, pancakes and syrup.
Let's take a look at traffic and weather together.
Traffic and weather. Yeah. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio. Updates all day long.
General things like that help me get through my day.
Before you head out, get together with our traffic and weather. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. All right, I think we're having issues with the phone system because keep having calls pop up, and before I can even get to them, they go off here. So either you need a little bit more patience and to stay on the line, we'll get with you as soon as we can, but if you're trying to call in, if anyone's having any issues, pretty good if you're all on audience, let us know if you're not able to get through here, because I only see what we got on this end here. Have to deal with the monkeys and the wrenches and the monkey wrenches here in a bit. Anyway, we do have a few more comments that have come in, of course, there, including Ion Graham. That one comment that I didn't address from the previous caller, will say that, saying we're all expecting the cops to be there before the crime ever happened. And then, of course, goes on to his favorite topic, TDS being mentioned here. I will say that there's an interesting confluence, may not be the right phrase for it, but close enough, but cross application perhaps of and yes, we have paid our phone bill. Thank you, Eric von Holstein Rathlow. You heard the calls that happened already, and I'll address that other part about why we take the calls we do here in a second. But again, on the idea of police not being there ahead of time, I mean, that's literally some of the reasons that Second Amendment advocates I know and have talked with put it forth, saying that if I could carry a cop with me, I would. in the meantime, I'll carry something else, the arming that was being mentioned by the previous caller. So that's why I sometimes find this interesting that it's so close to some similar points. And frankly, without the partisanship aspect of it, I mean, the punitive aspects of about either owning so-and-so or triggering these other people, once you get past that aspect of it, it ends up getting a lot more into, okay, so what are the actual concerns that like regular people have once you get past labels and party affiliations? Because I think a lot of people end up would be saying that, hey, I have similar levels of concerns here. And Doran hit saying, okay, was kidding about the calls remark. Okay, I appreciate that. But let's just say when it comes to that aspect of it, democracy is participatory, right? And so to an extent is this show. The people who chime in, the people who decide to put themselves out there are the ones who end up contributing the most. Not because of any we choose them, but if you're going to show up, we're going to regard it because that's the way we've done it since the beginning. And there's never been any point where I'm like, oh man, I can't even handle this person. If you're, going to intentionally just try to troll, yeah, we're going to dispense with that. But if you have sincerely held beliefs and ideas and actually want to talk about the issues, we're definitely going to do so. So, okay, I think we got a call that's popped up on the line here. Let's see if we can actually get it through here. We do have a caller on the line. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hi, Andrew. This is Jerry, West Side.
Hey there, Jerry. Thanks for joining us. You're on the air with us right now. What's on your mind?
Well, your phone seems to be working fine for me.
Okay, then I have no idea what's going on. I think people are just impatient these days. But what did you want to bring up?
Well, I had a question about the taxes.
Sure.
Okay, the property taxes. All righty. I understand that there's a limit on how much they can charge you, increase your property, and it's set by state law to 10%. Is that correct?
A change per year, basically. And
yes.
So that is, that's what we heard from the local central appraisal district. So I often don't recommend that people try to delve into the actual written bills because they end up being so referential to other bills and other items that trying to read through them on their own, unless you have like a million documents in front of you, often ends up being somewhat fruitless. But what I will say is trying to find the line that I have here. Basically, the two methods that are being put forth for the legislature, the one the House has already passed now and kind of said, deal with it or don't, Senate, it's in your court, would be a change to the formula, a change to the amount that can be included with it. The way that the Texas Tribune puts it here would lower the taxes that property owners pay to the state school districts, essentially spreading out savings to all property owners, including businesses who own commercial property, investors who own rental properties, and people who own their primary residence. Either version of it is going to amount to about $12.3 billion that has been set aside for this specific effort of property tax reform.
Oh, okay. What I was interested in is knowing where, because I protested mine
sure
property tax increase, which the one that they're discussing there on it was the appraisal value, and the appraisal value for me went up 148.15%, and it's supposed to be listed to 15%, but I'm having troubles finding where it states that in law besides El Paso Matters website. I know El Paso Matters has it in their website asking the appraiser stuff, but I can't find the actual law so I can quote it to the appraisers when I see them on my my rebuttal to their increase.
Yeah, the reporting of evidence. I ended up doing my own protest based on advice from y'all and, of course, conversations with my family unit. And we got actually our letter either late last week or early this week of setting the date. I think we got it in mid to late June is when ours is going to be. So we're in the process there. We do have an appraisal in hand. That'll be a decent part of ours because we bought the place within the last, full year. So we got those kind of things going on. So that's the way we're going to go about it, among other things, including there was some other advice from a previous caller that haven't fully gotten into yet, of the idea of looking at the evidence they based it upon and therefore looking at if it's truly based on the sale price or just the listing price. That was part of the also advice that was given. Haven't tried it myself here, so take it with a grain of salt. So I don't know the exact law I could quote to you either on this. The only one I have in front of me is, again, the House Bill 1 from this special session that has not been put in just yet. But tell you what, if I can find it, because that's what we heard from Dinah Kilgore, the chief appraiser and director for the Central Appraisal District in El Paso, the El Paso Central Appraisal District, EPPD, is making it. That's what I took away from it anyway. That is the statutory limit. So what I would maybe suggest, and I haven't done this myself yet, so I couldn't necessarily guide you better, would be to go over and look at their own policies, because they do have some of the guidelines on EPPD.org that you might be able to see there. That's where I would start anyway, particularly if you've got the protests and appeals and frequently asked questions.
Okay. Okie dokie.
Might be better than trying to delve into the law.
Out there that might know,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't received my actual letter. I just received email stating that this is their evidence, and I am informed that I need to get my evidence together before I show up there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing to, forewarned, forearmed, and prepared is always better than not. So yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. So if there's anybody out there actually know the law and where I can find it, I would appreciate it if they would let me know.
Yeah, fair enough. Tell you what, I'll see what I can find here before we get on the show next time.
Okay. One more thing concerning Eric.
Sure.
I forgive you, Eric. And I'll even say a prayer for you. Y'all have a good day. Thank you, Andrew. Bye-bye.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. I mean, we have a lot of different opinions that we end up wading through here, and labeling anyone as inherently wrong for any reason besides what they've actually said, and not actually dealing with what they've said is not the way we go about it here. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got coming up for you on the show some of the further plans, even if there are some further wrenches that have been thrown into those, based on some things that are, the fact that the legislator is going on, but we'll see. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olgain with your KFOX 14 news update. An off-duty police officer was hit by an SUV while conducting traffic control in Horizon City. It happened at Horizon Boulevard and Darrington Road at about 10:30 this morning. According to the Horizon City Police Department, the male officer was working with Tri-State and Texas Department of Transportation, which were working an intersection when the crash happened. That person confirmed that the injured officer does not work for Horizon PD, but the injured officer remains unidentified. A new school safety bill already on Texas Governor Greg Abbott's desk could require an armed guard at Texas schools. House Bill 3 was introduced in response to the deadly shooting in Uvalde. According to the bill, the armed person could be a peace officer, a district employee, or a school resource officer. Two of El Paso's three largest school districts, El Paso and Socorro, already have their own police departments. Isleta ISD does not, but administrators there say they're working to put school resource officers at all of their schools. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olgain.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Got a collision on Dyer Street north of Fred Wilson. An accident reported northbound Airway at Viscount. Police still working an accident North Mesa at University. And all north and southbound lanes in the lower valley on Horizon are closed still at Darrington. That intersection also closed due to a serious crash from earlier this morning. Try Eastlake as your alternate. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $3 breakfast deal. Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
Shopping for a gift for dad or grad? Get Rosetta Stone for 40% off now through June 18th. Learning a language will expand their horizons and open up new opportunities in career, travel, and more. Choose from Spanish, Italian, Japanese, and over 20 more languages. Rosetta Stone memberships are for life, so your present gets them forever access to language learning tools they can use for years to come. Get it now at rosettastone.com. 40% off ends June 18th.
No, not now. That sounds like it's going to cost you.
I know what to do. I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, I could have the money in my account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt may get a ticket. A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt during a crash may not make it home. Don't risk it. Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Memorial Day sale, May 26th through June 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $31.14. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt may get a ticket. A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt during a crash may not make it home. Don't risk it. Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
For more than 45 years, the El Paso Community Foundation has worked with individuals and nonprofits to address the unique opportunities and challenges in our vibrant multicultural community. Every dollar goes to bettering our region. For more information about the foundation, establishing a fund of your own, or giving to an existing fund or project, go to epcf.org. That's epcf.org. For good, for El Paso, forever.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, rounding the bend towards the end of the show here right now. So tell you a little bit about what we got coming up for you. But of course, Talk El Paso brought to you in part also by Ruli's International Kitchen. You've never tasted fusion like this before. Just a great little gourmet dive, not too far from our station. Actually, there specifically over on 4176 North Mesa. New Sunday and extended weekend hours open for not even just brunch, but throughout the entire day. Saturday 11 to 3, but Sunday all full day, full menu available. So check them out again. Ruli's International Kitchen catered my wedding, and we've been going since before then. Reason we knew about it, but definitely ever since for both the special occasions and the everyday. So Ruli's International Kitchen, 4176 North Mesa, rulisik.com. That's RULISIK.com. Sure, check out their featured menus. Always trying new things out. So even if you've been there before, there's always something new to try. Ruli's International Kitchen. And did find one answer to the previous question, actually, about the valuation of property. So comptroller.texas.gov is going to be, or controller, technically. I always put the P in there when I pronounce it. They have a section on the valuation of property. So I'm going to quote directly from here that you're going to want to look at tax code section 2301, starting with subsection A, saying that market value, the price of the property would transfer to. And so it says specifically that the limit on the amount of annual increases to the appraised value of a resident's home is not to exceed the lesser of the market value of the property or the sum of 10% of the appraised value of the property for the preceding year, the appraised value of the property for the preceding year, and the market value of all new improvements to the property. So it's a little bit more complicated than just 10%, but there's some of the listings for you here. So that's over on the Texas Controllers. So comptroller.texas.gov. There's the valuing property and property tax assistance sections there. Check that out. So we'll talk more about that, more on what's going on in the legislature. We got multiple special sessions on deck. Still want to focus more on the elections as well. Keep doing those efforts, and hopefully more with our state legislators as well. Some of the House members, at the very least, may or may not be available here in town. So we'll be talking more with them as possible and is available. Discussions going on right now. I'll just put it that way. Not firmly on the calendar yet, but we're doing our best. So for that, we're going to have to leave it there for today because we are out of time here for this program. So I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We'll do it again tomorrow as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. So until then, until next time, I want to ask you all to stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound before Reynolds, a crash has blocked 2 right lanes. El Paso fires on the scene, and there's a backup. 10-minute delays westbound on the 10 between Airway and the Patriot. Slow traffic on the I-10 eastbound from Trans Mountain to the Patriot. It's a 5-minute delay. A stalled vehicle is blocking the right lane on Gateway South after Trans Mountain. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Result of negotiations not guaranteed. Not available in all states. Approximate discounts of up to half before our fees based on an average enrolled debt and results.
If your credit card debt is out of control, if you're in over your head in monthly payments, there's a secret the credit card companies don't want you to know. If you have more than $10,000 in credit card debt, you have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. That's bad news for the credit card companies, but it's great news for you. We're Credit Associates, and we're offering you free information on how to completely resolve your credit card debt with a monthly payment you can afford. To see how much you could save, call now. 800-500-6135. Don't declare bankruptcy. Don't consolidate. Give us 10 minutes, and we could save you thousands and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk to call now. 800-500-6135. For the secret the credit card companies don't want you to know, call Credit Associates for free now and see how much money you could save. Call 800-500-6135. 800-500-6135.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
It's important to know what's going on, especially around the world.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The House is approving a key rule for the debt ceiling bill, setting it up for final passage later this evening. The rule passed 241 to 187 with 29 Republicans voting against it. The rule now allows the House to debate the debt ceiling bill on the floor and final vote on the legislation. Earlier today, President Biden said he felt good about the House vote tonight.
We're going to deal with the debt ceiling. I think things are going as planned, God willing.
Former Vice President Mike Pence plans to enter the 2024 race for the White House next week. The Hill reports his team is wrapping up plans to launch his campaign for the GOP presidential nomination on June 7th. He'll join a growing field of candidates, including his former president, Donald Trump, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. North Korea says an attempted satellite launch has failed. In Tokyo, Chris Gilbert says North Korea fired the satellite, triggering alerts in Japan and South Korea.
Japan believes the projectile was a ballistic missile and did not travel the distance set by Pyongyang. North Korean state media has confirmed this, saying a second-stage rocket didn't ignite, plunging the mounted satellite into the Yellow Sea. It was Pyongyang's sixth attempt to launch a spy satellite, and its first since 2016. The launch set off alerts in parts of Japan, but they were soon cancelled. North Korea is vowing to try again as soon as possible.
Actor Danny Masterson is guilty of raping 2 women. On Wednesday, a Los Angeles jury also said it was deadlocked on the charge related to a third accuser. The jury deliberated for 7 days before deciding the actor raped the 2 victims at his Hollywood Hills home 2 decades ago. Disney is finally reaching the company's goal of laying off 7,000 employees. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Another state is sending National Guard troops to the Texas border with Mexico. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin announced on Wednesday he's deploying 100 troops to the border following a briefing from Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Youngkin is the latest Republican governor to send National Guard soldiers to the border, joining states including Florida and Tennessee. The operator of the limousine involved in a deadly crash nearly 5 years ago is being sentenced to 5 to 15 years in state prison. Natalie Migliori reports.
Naman Hussein was previously convicted of 20 counts of manslaughter for his role in the October 2018 Schoharie limo crash that killed 20 people. Hussein's sentence was handed down after roughly a dozen family impact statements, with one mother saying she cries